Hey guys, what's up? So I am schmearing. I am doing a faux German schmear on my cabinets. And I'm gonna show you a little bit of the process because it's kind of cool. And it's kind of a fun little technique, it's a fun way to accentuate things and add some character. So I'm gonna show you what I'm using and then a little bit of how I'm doing it. So on my cabinets, I'm going to repaint my base cabinets. They were carbon. We're gonna do a little update. So what I've done, and I've posted some pictures in my stories if you've seen them, but I have my V design on this side. I'll show you guys that in just a minute. But on this side, I just bought a large, it looks like planks, like wood planks, and you can get these. They look like faux bricks or planks, and there's lots of different styles of them. I got this at Lowe's and it was 30 bucks, and then I just cut it to fit. So I installed it on the base, and then I just used a nail gun to install it, and then up here on this strip you can see as well. There's a little cabinet door over there I'm going to do something cool with, and then on the bottom here I just added, in the same pattern that I did the V pattern on the side, those alder planks. I just added to be like my kickboard and my baseboard here to kind of bring it all together. So what I'm doing right now, I saved a little bit to show you, is I'm just putting a really thin coat of the enamel on just to kind of wash and cover up this wood tone, and that will be my base. All right, so what I'm using, and I did leave a list up at the top for you guys to see, but I'm gonna use the S50 Klingon brush. This is my favorite go-to cabinet brush. This is the brand new Urban Rhino, the 1 hour enamel. And then I also use Saltwash. All right. So first, what I like to do, and you don't have to do this, you can just smear it on, but I like to have two tones come through. So I like to have a really thin, and it kind of takes on the color of whatever's underneath. And then I put on my thicker coat. So if you guys will look up here, I'll try and maybe bring a little, it's still drying, but see how some places are quite thin and then other places are thick, and it almost gives it a two-tone look because this is brighter. And this will tone down just a bit. But that's what doing that base coat and then doing the schmear over the top of it, that's the look it's gonna give you. All right, so come over here with me. All right, vámonos, all right. Okay, so I'll turn this down so you guys can see. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna dip it right into my enamel and brush it on. And depending on what you want, like if you have different tones in your crevices, this has some black and it has some wood color, you can cover it all up, or you can just cover some of it up and let some of it show through. So I'm just gonna apply it, and then I just have some shop towels, paper towels here, and then I'm just going to wipe it back. So that way it's just kind of washing it, it's just getting in the crevices, and then leaving a really light tone over the wood to kind of tone down that deep wood color. And part of the reason I'm doing this as well is because I haven't decided if I'm going to stain my alder pattern on the side or if I want to leave it more of a light wood tone. So if I kind of tone this down, then I could do either. I could stain it and bring out that darker color, or I can leave it really like a natural wood tone. And I do a German schmear on a fireplace. I have a tutorial on my website, and it uses a very similar technique to this, but the tutorial teaches you everything from prepping your fireplace all the way until finishing it. So it has a lot more information. It's like $3 if you want to rent it, and it's $10 if you want to buy it, and you can watch it anytime. So it's a cheap little tutorial. And the only reason I charge for it is because if you've ever made a tutorial, it takes a lot of time. You know, you got to record yourself, and editing takes twice as long, and oops, there went my towel. Anyway, so if you want to do a fireplace, that's a good one to watch. So I'm just going to wipe this back here. We'll come to the bottom, and then I will show you guys how to schmear over the top. You could use a roller to do this part if you wanted to. I like using the brush because sometimes rollers they're not going to get into all the crevices, and this is a very detailed faux wood, and I wanted it that way on purpose. The enamel is going to dry quickly, and this is a very thin coat, so you're going to want to wipe it back. You work in small sections. If you do the whole thing and try and wipe it back, it's not going to wipe back, and then you're actually going to be taking it all the way back down to the piece you installed, especially where this isn't raw wood. This has a little bit of a sheen to it, similar to beadboard. It's a very thin material, and it has a sheen, so if I were to rub too hard or apply too much and try and remove it, then it's going to come off because it's not raw wood. It's not going to soak into that wood. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do for my base coat. And now let's do some schmearing so I can show you what that looks like. Okay, so I've mixed my enamel and Saltwash together. And if you never use Saltwash, it's just a powder additive that thickens your paint and makes it so you can create texture. It's a really cool product. And a few things I'll tell you about. If you're gonna mix it with the enamel, there's a few things you need to be aware of. I'll let you look at me. The first one is that enamel dries really rapidly. And so, and it tends to thicken more with the Saltwash than like the chalk line does over time. So when you add Saltwash to a chalk type paint, it's going to thicken it, and it's going to stay about that consistency. When you add it to the enamel, the chemical reaction is a little bit different, and so it's going to get thicker and harder. So you want to add less Saltwash. It will feel runny, and it might not feel the consistency you want. Add less, wait some time, let it mix, and then after about, 5 minutes of it sitting, then you can decide if you need to add more Saltwash or not. Otherwise, you're going to have a really hard clump of enamel and Saltwash material that's unusable. If you get a little bit too thick, you can either add a little bit more enamel and mix it together, or you can add just a little bit of water, and then it's going to soften that up. So, see, it turns into a putty-like, let's see if I can tone that camera down, a putty-like consistency, okay? And then you want to mix small amounts. So I did this to the outside of my home, all of the brick I did this way, and I tried to mix like half a gallon at once, and I put too much Saltwash in, and so I was trying to add paint and fix it. So if you do this, mix small amounts, use it quickly, keep it covered with a wet rag, and then you can add a little bit of water if needed to kind of make it not so thick. But it's going to feel quite runny at first, so keep that in mind. Okay, so I've got this all mixed. Now I'm just going to take my spatula with a very small amount, and I'm going to turn you guys so you guys can watch this part. There we go. Okay. All right, even that's about good. You don't need very much. And then there's a couple ways you can do it. You can just kind of dab it on and then pull it across. And then I also like to layer it. So I'm going to put on this layer. And then when it's dry, I may come back and decide that I want it thicker and have even more depth and more character in some areas than others. So I may come back when it's totally dry and add more. You can also take your trowel and pull it away from the salt wash that you've added, and you're going to create some texture. Let's see if I can get you guys a little bit closer to see. Can you see that texture? And I can either leave it or I can really gently just pull my trowel through that and just smooth it a little bit. So it still has texture, but it has a knockdown. So it's called knocking down a texture. So you're just gonna pull it up and then you're gonna knock it down just super gently by pulling across. Cool? So you can kind of create any texture that you like by doing it that way. The one thing I will warn you, and as you'll notice, I don't have very much on my trowel. This is the max amount that I'm gonna have, and I'm not gonna put all of that in one spot. And don't be afraid to go in different directions either. So the reason why I put it on thinner and then pull it up for texture is because if you put it on too thick, and I'm speaking from experience, this has happened on my brick, and I learned my lesson. If I put it on too thick, then some of those thick areas, the way that the salt wash reacts with the enamel, because it dries so quickly, it's going to crackle and cause some crackling in the thick areas. It's not gonna fall off. It's got great adhesion, so you're not gonna have problems that way, but you will get some crackling. Now, you might like that, and so if you really like that, put it on a little bit thicker and let that air, you know, the escaping air that's trying to evaporate, let it cause it to crackle. If not, then just put it on a little bit thinner like I've shown you here. And if you really want a nice thick texture, then you can go ahead and layer it. Like I told you, you're just gonna have to be patient because it takes time for the salt wash to dry. More time than just the paint because it's so thick, all right? And then the last thing that I will tell you guys to watch for, or just to be aware of really, is when you add salt wash to lighter colors, whites, this is Urban Rhino, it's a really pale gray color, any really light tones, salt wash, as you can see right here, I'll show you, salt wash has like a bluish green tint to it. Can you guys kind of see that? It's almost like this, but a little bit lighter, okay? And so when you add salt wash to a really light color and you make it thick, that color is going to take on some of that tone. So as you start applying your schmear, you might find that it's like now kind of bluish green tinted, and you might freak out, but don't freak out, okay? So it's gonna go away, it will dissipate. So you're gonna get it all done, and then you might even come back the next morning and it still might even look a little bit bluish green, but give it a couple of days and that bluish green tone is going to go right out of the paint, and you're gonna get your true white or your light gray or whatever color that you were really hoping to get from the get-go. So keep that in mind. Don't put it on too thick, you'll get crackling. Work in layers, so give it time. It may turn green-blue, but it will go away. Don't put in too much if you're working with the enamel, or it will get too thick too quickly. Less is more, and then work slowly. You can add a little bit of water, but not too much, because you don't want to ruin the durability of the enamel. And give it time. It's going to take quite a bit longer to dry. So keep those things in mind. And then, let's see. I want to tell you guys one other thing. I don't remember. But if I remember later, I can comment. Anyway, I have a couple comments, so let me just look through them and see if you guys have questions. When I do it on furniture, what tool do I use? Whatever will fit on the surface. So if it's a large surface, I'll use something like this, a large spatula. If it's a smaller surface, sometimes I'll even use, I'll even grab my little stir stick. So I actually did that on part of this section up here. There's some small areas I couldn't get this in, so I just used my stir stick to do that with. The spatulas are really nice and they're easy to work with, and then you can pull off excess paint by scraping it. Yeah, go back and watch it. Saltwash is a really, really fun product to use. There's so many different things you can do with it. And the people at Saltwash are super cool. I love both of them. But I've seen them paint like pillows. They'll add Saltwash to paints and then give texture to pillows. and then they will seal it, and it feels like leather. It has texture. It's really cool. So you can even paint fabric by adding the Saltwash. You can paint fabric without the Saltwash, but you can add that texture. You can do raised stencils. So if I wanted to do like a stenciled pattern, I could put that down, add Saltwash to my paint to make it pretty thick, and then I can put the stencil over with, you know, with a stir stick or whatever, and then I'll have a raised stencil that way too. So there's a lot of uses to it. How will I seal it? Okay, Hannah, so here's the other thing. With the, because I'm using the enamel, I don't have to seal it. The enamel has a built-in top coat. So that's why it's the ideal cabinet paint, because it's super durable. So I painted all of my cabinets about a year ago. I have 3 boys and 2 big dogs, and it's held up wonderfully. And it has a satin, really buttery smooth finish. So I really prefer it for cabinets. And that's why I'm using this on this. I could use the chalk line, but I don't have to seal it. Now, because my kids sit right here and there's a bench and they kick it and they have dirty feet and shoes and everything else, I probably will put a coat of the Wise Owl varnish over the top of this section just to have that extra protection, because they are really hard, especially on this section here. Although I don't have to. Yes, I have. I have used it on raised stencils, and it works awesome. Super cool. So, all right, I'm gonna keep going. As you can see, and maybe you guys can't see it, but this looks a little blue-green. It's gonna fade more to this beautiful gray tone that we want. So keep those things in mind if you decide to try it. You can find everything you need on my site, appleblossomway.com. And if you wanna do your fireplace, like, hold on, my fireplace, then I do have the tutorial for that, so you can watch that. And then, oh, do you guys wanna hurry and see the V pattern? I'll show you. Although I can't leave this for too long, or my Saltwash is gonna dry up. All right, so right around here, let me flip you around. Okay, so this is the wood V pattern that I had been working on. And it's made, sorry, I'm a little shaky, guys. And it is made out of alder scraps that I got at Project Restore. I've never done this before, but in my mind it was gonna work, and it pretty much did. So I just cut these on a 45-degree angle and then cut the sides to fit. And it was a big project, but it's gonna be really pretty. So my only issue was I cut them a little short on the one side. So you can see this dark strip here, this corner. This is actually Bondo, so I shaped and formed the corner out of Bondo. I left it with some texture so it would look like the wood. I put a coat of Weather Vane chalk synthesis paint over the top, and then up here you can see I've started to pull down the Urban Rhino over the top. And then when I smear that a little bit, I'll take the trowel and I'll just pull it across a little bit from the top and the side, so it will have a little bit of a smeared texture. And then I'll either stain or seal the rest of the wood. So the majority of the wood will show, and just the edges will have a little bit of the schmear coming across to correct that. And then just to tie in this side to the wood pattern on this side. So anyway, I hope you guys have fun. Go try it out, go do something fun and paint something cool. And if you do try this, then post a picture and tag me so I can see it. All right, bye.